Well, hello there people. This series of videos are about the time I spent as a trucker. I've never considered truck driving a career, but a job that fills gaps, saves money, a job to fall back on when needed. Ultimately, it was the way that I got my permanent residency in Canada. I had started life out in the UK, and I was driving trucks out there since I was 21. I'd always been interested in trucking since I grew up watching movies like Smokey and the Bandit and Convoy. It was those types of trucks that I was really inspired by. I'd always wanted to drive those Peterbilts and Kenworths, like I could only ever see in the movies. That is, until I came out here and I got my chance. Now if you come out here from the United Kingdom with the intention to live here long term, you have to go to the driver's licensing office. Your car license you just switch out over the counter for a provincial one issued by the province of where you're based. The Class 1 truck license doesn't get switched with it. You have to do an air brake course, a bit of training, and then a road test. It was all relatively easy and straightforward if you already have the skill and the experience. The road test was no big deal. It has changed somewhat in more recent years though. There was a nasty accident between a truck and a coach. Since then, they wanted to make it harder and put more classroom time into the Class 1 training. It's still quite doable though. When I came to Canada, I was just about still young enough for the working holiday visa program. That meant I could work for any employer for up to a year, but after 6 months of working for one, you can become eligible to apply for the provincial nominee program. Then as long as you stay working for that same company for the next 12 months while your permanent residency application is processed, you can then become a permanent resident. That's what I did, and at least that's the way it was back then for Manitoba. I'm not sure if things have changed since. I was fortunate that I caught the last few years when trucks like this were found on a company fleet. Company trucks don't look like that anymore. They're more modern with an aerodynamic appearance, like that FedEx one that I just passed. For many truckers in Canada and the US, it's their full-time job. It's a very different job than it is in the UK, where you work shifts and come home every night. The distances that freight gets moved around here are vast. Those that do this full-time are away from home and away from family for days at a time. Then they might only come home for 2 or 3 days before they need to go out again. For me, I tried to lead a healthy, balanced lifestyle. I ran hard and did lots of miles for part of the month. Then I would try and stay at home for a week or 2 before the next trip. That was more than enough hours to satisfy the terms of the nominee program. But it meant that I could start doing life as well. I had an apartment, I made friends in the area. I followed through with some of my other interests. Being a company driver, I did have that option to go not quite full-time. It was always hard to leave on a trip. I'd been comfortable at home with all my creature comforts in the apartment, home-cooked meals, friends and things I enjoy doing. When you go on a truck run, you have to leave all that behind for a while. It was always the same though. Once I laid my things out in the sleeper, got the truck set up for me and got out on the road, I was fine. Then I was set for my little adventure. Some runs really did turn into adventures. Usually you try and maximize your driving hours to get to where you're going as soon as possible. Get the return load, bring it back home. But there are often times when that load isn't ready to go till the next day, or you're running out of your 70 hours in 7 days. You sometimes have time to hang around places. So that was how I got to go and spend some time in Las Vegas. I caught up with a pilot friend in Georgia. He picked me up from the local truck stop and we took a Cessna out for a night flight. I stopped by Jerry Reed's grave, the snowman from Smokey and the Bandit. I stopped by St. Louis to visit my cousin and her family. But there was one time when it took 3 days to get a return load in Michigan. I wasn't going to sit around in a truck stop for 3 days, so I started to head to a nearby mall. I found a place I could leave the truck. I started walking towards the mall, and I stopped by at a garage sale. Well, that family and I became friends, and I had the most wonderful 3 days with them. I've seen them a few more times since then. I really used to like leaving from Canada in the winter months and heading south. You had to bring clothes with you for all seasons. I would leave the -20s and I would drive into the +20s. I got to enjoy a few days of hot weather when it was cold at home. The road from up in central Canada to California takes you through Montana. There is the Bozeman National Park. That's a beautiful drive. Then you get down into Idaho, where all the potatoes are, and the landscape looks different. Utah is semi-arid land. You have usually left all the snow behind by here. Then when you get into Nevada, you really are in the desert. Here's Peggy Sue's. It's the 50s diner on the state line between Nevada and California. I like to stop here. It's good food here, good culture. Not too far away from there is an original Bonnie and Clyde car that's in a glass case in a casino. So now in California, the temperature is in the +20s. I would be in shorts and t-shirts by now. Most of the workers on the plantations in California were Spanish. So from the Canadian winter to here, it really felt like I've driven into a different part of the world. I remember how this fell over. I had to get up a steep hill in the crawler gear. Trying to shift into first partway up the hill was a mistake. Oops. So then I would have gone to pick up a load from somewhere near there. Usually from out west, the load coming to Canada would be going to Edmonton. Then there would be a third load from there to bring back home. It's about 2.5 days to get up to Edmonton. There is a smartphone app that I found very useful called Trucker Path. It has all the facilities a trucker would need on the map. The green W is a way station. Looks like that one is a portable one, which means it's just a piece of ground where the police are sometimes there at random, with some small scales that they lay down and you drive over them to check your axle weights. I'll talk more about way stations and scale houses in a subsequent episode. Roadside rest areas, which are the blue picnic benches. These can be very useful to the trucker. There is usually parking for cars on one side, trucks on the other. Then in between is a small building with some bathrooms, which are usually looked after and properly cleaned. Sometimes it's nothing more than that. Other times you can find them with more facilities in the building, little shops, free coffee, and even walking trails. Now here it looks like there is a couple of rest areas close by some truck stops. Parking for the night is often a problem near some cities. Ideally you will want to spend the night in the truck stop, which has all the showers and everything you need for the morning. But if you can't find a space in one of those, you can park in the nearby rest area and then just move over to the truck stop in the late morning when there will be plenty of space for your shower and to fill your water containers and things. The only disadvantage with this is that your clock starts when you leave the rest area and then you go straight back onto off-duty when you're in the truck stop. That shortens the available duty time that you have that day once you start driving again. So on the Trucker Path app, when you select a truck stop from the map, you can see whether there are many, few, or no parking spaces available. You can see what facilities a truck stop has, how many showers. That's handy to know, because then you can tell how long you might have to wait for a shower. You can see if they have Wi-Fi, ATM, laundry, and if there is a restaurant there. You can navigate straight to that truck stop from within the app. I always try to use the big chain truck stops, such as Pilot, Flying J and Love's. Larger trucking companies can get fuel discounts from these, and they want you to fuel up in them. This is a good deal for the driver as well. You sign up for the loyalty rewards program for each of these. When you scan your truck stop card with your fuel card, you earn points that you can use in the store. You also get free showers on your account for each fill over 50 gallons. So you never really have to buy your showers, and it doesn't take that long to earn enough points for some decent and useful items like tools, unless you keep using them all on snacks. I didn't, most of the time. Backing these semi-trucks up around corners is significantly different than with the European trucks. The unit has a much longer wheelbase and a long nose out the front, so you need much more room around you. You also can't see the back of your trailer past the exhaust stack when you stick your head out the window. So it's much more necessary to keep getting out and walking back there to have a look until you are straight enough to see your whole trailer in the mirrors. Truck stop restaurants range from Denny's and iron skillets with a huge buffet to some of the fast food types like Burger King. Then some have restaurants which are not part of a chain. Some of these can be very good. That's butter chicken I've got there. That's one of my favorite dishes. Yum yum. During these times, I used to rely on these restaurants for my evening meals. Later on I had a better idea. I'll tell you more about that later on in a subsequent episode. Once in a while, back when I relied on them, I came in to find that the restaurant had decided to close as it was too quiet. The waitress said, "We've turned off the ovens." This was one thing that I found unacceptable. If you are working in a truck stop restaurant, you are there to serve the trucker. They need feeding, and they can't go around town with a semi-truck trying to find food elsewhere. So yes, I find it absolutely necessary for them to keep a chef and a waiter or waitress there hanging around until late at night, regardless of how quiet it is, to make sure all truckers in the truck stop that need feeding are fed. If the restaurant makes money as well, then great. But truck stop restaurants are there to serve the truckers, who are single-handedly hauling freight for thousands of miles, which you and everyone else benefits from. On these odd occasions, when I got there, got parked, went into off-duty mode on my log, and then they wouldn't feed me, I found myself walking out of the place in a snowstorm to try and find somewhere nearby for my hot meal. And they didn't know where there was another restaurant. Eventually, I found one, had a good feed, and then I had to walk all the way back in the snow. Grr. To be fair, that's happened once or twice in 10 years. So when I get to Edmonton, it'll be at night. I'll go and deliver the load the next day. The load for the final leg back home wouldn't be ready until the day after that. So I got to spend a day at the West Edmonton Mall. If you think I went in there, you'd be absolutely right. That place is awesome. There's hot tubs and slides, wave pools. I hope I never grow out of water parks. The final leg back home, I was always so ready to get there. I always slept well in trucks, but knowing that night I was going to get back to the cozy apartment and back in my own bed for a week or two was the best feeling. I used to get excited about that. Sometimes I had to dig my car out. Cars here are fitted with a block heater that you plug into the 110 volt. Mine also had a trickle charger on the battery that was connected to the same cord as the block heater. That was quite necessary when I would leave the car here for a week or so. It would always start right up for me when I came back from a truck run. Getting in that night and turning on the heat and having that first cup of tea was the best feeling after a week out on the road. Eeny meeny, miny mo. You really appreciate the creature comforts you have at home when you get back from a trip like that. The next day, I'd get the laundry done, I'd have a nice home-cooked meal in front of the TV that night. Looking at the time of year it was, I would have stayed home for Christmas. I would have spent it with friends. And the next trip would have been early January. Well, that's all for this episode. For the next one, I've got some more adventures to tell you about, and some other things that you might find useful or interesting. See you then. Bye for now.